So I've just finished listening to I've just finished listening to Drake's interview with Bobbi Althoff. Yes, you heard it. Drake's interview with Bobbi Althoff. So Drake sat down with Bobbi Althoff. They're now back on call again. During the interview, they kind of addressed why they fell out. From what I can understand, reading between the lines, it seems as if when Bobbi Althoff, after she finished interviewing Drake, her life also kind of fell apart. Personally, I think she just got divorced from her husband. Everybody found out that she had a husband and 2 kids and shit, and people were running with a narrative that she was basically a shit mother because she'd rather hang out with rappers and stuff than look after her kids. Then there was that famous line from the Drake interview where she said something like, "Oh, it's my kid's first birthday, but I'm here instead with you." And Drake takes a piss of her. I was like, "What? Are you really is it really your kid's birthday and you're here?" And that became like a bit of a meme. And then of course her kind of, after she divorced her husband, jumping around and doing content with other black dudes, I guess people kind of made the assumption that she was fucking all of them. So she had a bit of bad PR. So if I'm not mistaken, from what I can understand, reading between the lines of how they discussed this, it felt as if Bobbi Althoff blamed Drake partly for her life falling apart. She let him know via text and shit. He didn't like that he was being blamed for that. And then Drake basically blocked her. And then from there, they didn't speak again. And I'm not going to lie, man. I'm not going to lie. When I found out my fucking guy, Drake, blocks people, I was like, oh, he does make it really hard for you to like him, innit? Like, he's so corny and lame in it sometimes. I love Drake. He's my guy, but like, he's very light-skinned. Because I really don't think, as a man, you should ever block anybody. I think blocking and stuff should be reserved for the ladies, the gays and the days and the dems and in-betweens. I think if you're a red-blooded male, a red-blooded heterosexual male, right, whose dick gets hard at the sight of big juicy tits bouncing up and down, I really don't think you should block. I think that's the act of a bitch-made person, unless that person's harassing you or something. And even the word harassing as well, that's like a man saying problematic. Harassing, like, it's just something words shouldn't leave your lips. But regardless, for sake of the description, I just think you shouldn't block people as a man. I feel like you should have enough self-discipline, you should have enough fucking willpower, enough concentration, enough things going on in your life that if somebody's annoying you, you don't want to talk to them anymore, you can just kind of block it out. But you don't need to block. I don't believe in blocking. I don't believe in muting. I don't believe in all that shit. I've never blocked or muted somebody in my entire life. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a man. I'm sure for women, blocking is very important. It's very safe because there's a lot of creeps and weirdos in your DMs, leaving you comments and stuff. Because I've seen like regular girls, like girls, nobody knows, who have their comments on their Instagram limited. A girl with like 100 followers. So you just imagine the shit that she must get. I even seen it recently on Twitter, actually, which is kind of upsetting. I'm not going to lie. You see it a lot on Twitter. You see like a cute girl on Twitter will post a picture of themselves, a selfie, and then she'll have the comments turned off or the replies turned off. And she does that because usually the comments and replies are fucking crazy. People trying to get your attention and being really, lewd. So you can imagine, probably for her family, she doesn't want them to see all that sort of stuff. So I understand. But I just think as a red-blooded man, you should not block anybody. You should be able to just ignore them. If they say something to you that you don't like, just ignore them. I think that's like a tenet of being a man, being able to just like endure things, swallow things. Again, it's not best. Again, pause, swallow. No pause. No, let's not do a pause. People like to swallow. I like to swallow. So there's nothing wrong with feeling, upset about somebody, maybe being a bit pissed off at how they acted and shit. But I just think the action of going to somebody's, opening your phone, opening the app, searching a person's name, clicking on the dots, then clicking, scrolling down to block. I think that's something that a man should never do. Drake did that. Drake blocked Bobbi Althoff after that because he felt probably that she overstepped her boundaries and was accusing him of something that he was not responsible for. They never spoke again. So it sounds like by what I've listened to in this interview, Drake was the one that suggested that they interview again. Because Bobbi Althoff admits in this interview that she lost a bunch of deals and she got about a bunch of interviews cancelled. Some interviews she mentioned were pulled. She had interviews already recorded, but once it was made public that her and Drake were not friends anymore and weren't cool, a lot of people that already recorded interviews with her told her not to post it and pulled them. People that she had planned to interview didn't want to do it anymore. So she lost out on a lot business wise. Maybe her podcast failing in the first place had to do with Drake basically making it clear that they weren't friends anymore. At the time, I think everyone believed that they weren't friends because Drake had to fuck and she said no or something like that. But it doesn't seem like the case. It seems like she was going through what she was going through in her personal life. She then had a freak out, blamed Drake for it. Drake didn't like that, blocked her, and then that was it. So they're back together now, talking again. And I also get the feeling from this interview that Drake also did this on purpose because he wanted to piss off some media people, journalists and stuff, the hip hop kind of, people who basically say that he's a culture vulture. They say that he doesn't want to have a proper interview with a journalist because he's afraid of the hard-hitting questions they're going to ask, and he's still running scared from the Kendrick battle and blah, 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 blah. So I feel like he did this on purpose as well to kind of spite those people. Like, I'm not going to sit down with you. I don't give a fuck. I'm going to sit down with this random girl. We're going to have this random interview that kind of feels like they're just talking at home. It's going to feel a little bit awkward at times because there's clearly some sexual tension there between them. So you're kind of third wheeling a guy, kind of spitting game in a way. If I was a boyfriend of hers, I wouldn't be too happy too. That's another thing to mention. She's got a boyfriend now, so I don't know who the guy is. I'm assuming he's black. I'm assuming he's black because she seems like the type of girl that likes her rum. If you know, you know. She seems like the kind of girl who likes her rum and likes patties and shit. The kind of girl that knows how to cook jerk chicken. You know what I'm talking about. So I'm assuming she's got a new guy, or she says she's got a new boyfriend, and I'm assuming he's black. But even if it's not black, I wouldn't be too happy with this interview. I'm not going to lie. But I guess that's what maybe you have to kind of put up with if you're dating a girl like Bobbi Althoff, who's attractive and who's funny and has these interviews. Maybe you have to put up with the fact that you're going to have people, guys especially, flirting with her during the interviews, and that's part of the tension. It's like that woman who does the NBA interviews, Taylor Rooks, right? Part of the charm of her interviews, she's obviously very well informed, but part of the charm, part of the appeal of that Taylor Rooks' interviews is that she's a super attractive woman, and there's that weird tension between the athletes because they're trying to flex or stunt on her, or no stunt, but they're trying to impress her. But she also knows her shit. So she kind of has them with their guard down. She kind of makes them have their guard down or puts their guard down because she's attractive. But then, they also have this cool interview. So I think the same thing happens. So I guess if you're the boyfriend, you should be bothered. But if I was a boyfriend, I'd be a little bit bothered because Drake acknowledges that she's got a boyfriend, and then he also ramps up the game like a true player, So that was the interview. That gave the basis of it. They run through a couple of questions. They get to the bottom of a couple of things in terms of the culture vulture thing, which I think is kind of unfair, really, because there's a bunch of people really that have come out already and said, like, even someone like a Blockboy JB. I think Blockboy JB said, like, Drake never charged him for the record at all. If anything, Drake just took the publishing on the back end, if I'm not mistaken. But when he goes to perform the song anywhere or does whatever, he keeps all that money himself. Do you know what I mean? So Drake he didn't charge him for the song. He just said, yeah, just let me hold on to a pub. Other people said, no, nothing. I think Offset said he never charged him for jumping on Versace or anything. He just liked the song and jumped on it. So I think the culture vulture accusations are really unfair because it does seem like he goes out of his way to just help people for the sake of helping people. Even this interview with Bobbi Althoff, I don't feel like he has a financial incentive to do this. I don't feel like they're in business together. It feels like to me, I kind of believe the story that they kind of fell out over something that Bobbi Althoff maybe misinterpreted or, just feeling bad about her situation, blamed him for, and they kind of weren't speaking anymore. But it also feels like Drake recognized that he may have done some damage to her career and is trying to put it right by publicly coming out and endorsing her with this interview, So I think it's unfair to accuse that person of being a culture vulture. All in all, somewhat enjoyable interview. If you're not really a fan of Drake, you're probably not going to like it because it doesn't really cover anything, to be honest. When I listened to this interview, it did kind of make me feel like, I know Drake doesn't really fuck with the legacy media. I know he's not a fan of all the hip hop journalists, especially Muggs and fucking, bag of semolina built, melted candle looking in the face, Elliot Wilson dickhead guys. I don't like him either. I don't want him to sit down with fucking Ebro from Hot 97 because Ebro Hot 97, he fucking sucks as well. So fuck Ebro. And also Zane Lowe. No one wants a Zane Lowe interview. They're fucking boring and don't go anywhere. But after watching this Bobbi Althoff interview, it did kind of make me feel like I also want him to get interviewed by somebody properly, like an interview about music. It would have been nice to have heard Drake talk about some music, doesn't have to be the Kendrick stuff. just to talk about his ideas, where he's going to, where he's trying to go, maybe find out some tidbits and some lore about certain tunes. I don't know. That would have been a nice way to go. I would have liked to have seen that. His live shows, how he's enjoyed them, the different way he comes out, the set lists and stuff, the locations. I don't know. I would have preferred that. So this interview kind of made me more excited for a Drake music interview. But then I don't know. He's also in that place where he's a much older guy now. He seems very self-assured. Maybe he just doesn't feel like he needs to owe anybody an explanation when it comes to his music, because it's kind of all kind of out there. It's in the records, isn't it? He does really kind of spew or pour his heart out onto a tune. So maybe he just feels like, hey, I say what I say in the music. If you don't get it, you don't get it. If you get it, you get it, type of thing. I don't know. But I would like a real interview for him regarding the music stuff. One thing I also noticed, to be honest, was, I wouldn't say an insecurity, but it does seem like he overly thinks about everything. Then when he's very aware of how he's perceived online, which I think is a very big, strong trait of Drake's. I think he's incredibly self-aware. I think he knows he does that fucking weird duck lip thing. I think he knows he kind of dresses a bit corny and weird and lame. I think he knows he comes across a bit corny too, but he doesn't try and change or act different, you know? He just kind of embraces who he is. But he mentioned the first time he got his nails painted, and he also mentioned the first time he got his hair braided. And he basically says when he got that and got his face tattoo, he said that each time was like a point where he was thinking, oh, people are going to think I'm having a midlife crisis, you know? But I also want to do it because it's self-expression, right? I feel like doing it. It looks cool, so I want to do it. Fun fact, he got his nails, he started doing his nails, like painting them and shit and all that sort of stuff, because he bites his nails. Because I think Bobbi Althoff mentions it, like, oh, you really bite your nails, your nails are disgusting. He said, yeah, that's why I'll get my nails done. So as a way to kind of deter himself from not buying his nails, he gets his nails pedicured, manicured, whatever it is, and painted. So believe that if you want. And then the other thing I think he mentioned was the face tattoo. He thought people were gonna think he was having a midlife crisis by getting a face tattoo and by having braids and shit, blah blah. But he did it anyway. So it goes to show that he's very self-aware, maybe somewhat self-conscious, which makes sense. But he's also a person that doesn't seem to give a fuck, you know. But I want to play a couple of clips that I kind of found somewhat interesting here. The first clip is the joke towards the end, right until the end, when Drake starts drinking a bit more. By the way, one of his favorite drinks is iced rosé. I like this guy, but he's so fucking he's so moist, isn't it? I love Drake, but he's so moist. One of his favorite drinks is iced rosé. He gets through about 4 when he's doing his interviews. Interviews like an hour long, and he fucking downs about 4 of them, right? So he gets a bit lit towards the end, and he's clearly a bit tipsy.
If you had a superhero name, what would it be? BBC girl.
Oh, okay. That's where we're gonna end. That's crazy. How about you?
Oh, I'm sorry. That really tickled me. BBC girl. That was towards the end anyway. As you can see, he's getting closer in the bed. He's feeling a little bit loose and shit. Another moment that I really liked was this moment, courtesy of Kuruku, where he speaks about being a culture vulture. So this is Drake basically countering some of the claims that he's a culture vulture. Let me play that clip now.
Oh, you're a culture vulture, or like like people will describe the collaborative efforts that I've put forth and the artists that I've picked up and lifted up or shine a light on as me taking, they'll put a negative spin on it and try and tell me, that it's a self-serving thing or whatever. And I think I get really sensitive about that. And I think at that moment I was just like, well, you know what? Then don't even worry about it.
So yeah, I agree. It's unfair because just listen to the people that have the collaborations with him. Everyone that's collaborated with him has always said that Drake goes above and beyond just to help. He just fucks on the music. He reaches out. He kind of does it just for the love of the game. And then the person reaps all the rewards. He's not even in it to like sign you away, get you locked up in some crazy deal. Nah, get money from your label. None of that. He doesn't do anything. He just pops in, pops out, pops on a tune and keeps it moving. So I think if he was a culture vulture, if he was really coming and stealing people's flow, stealing people's sounds, not paying homage, not putting people on, doing them dirty, like I think we would know by now. I think we'd know by now. But I think all in all, he's definitely changed a lot of people's lives. But the one thing I have to really, really argue and push back on when it comes to my GOAT is this section. this section where Drake addresses the fake abs controversy, right? So a few months ago actually, Drake posted a picture of himself topless in the mirror. Yeah, I think he was at home. He had this cabinet full of fucking fragrances as well. It's fucking crazy. But I think he took a picture of himself coming out of the shower, obviously. I think so, maybe just in the bathroom, whatever, with his top off. And the abs did look very, very etched. Right? They did look very etched. I wouldn't say I'd go as far as saying he has fake abs, but they look like the kind of surgery that people get where they kind of like, it's almost like they do lipo on the abs so that the abs are more defined. So maybe when you actually get your abs, you obviously strip away the fat. But if you don't want to do that, they just kind of do the lipo. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's how etching works. So his abs did look very etched on. And everyone was talking about it. Everyone was fucking mocking him about it. He didn't respond. But now he decided to respond. And he gave a reason as to why it may have looked that way. But he basically said he didn't get ab surgery. But I don't believe him. And I think this reason's bullshit. So let's play the clip.
I noticed your tattoo for the first time today on your neck when you're walking away.
What? My son's name?
Yeah, that's adorable.
Shout out to my son.
Shout out to your son.
What a good guy.
Is he?
He's working
good
out
kid.
crazy. He has
Right
an
now?
8-pack. He has an 8-pack. It's crazy.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, he's just like way more locked in than like I ever
Than
was
you?
or ever will be.
So he doesn't have to Photoshop his body like you?
Hard-hitting questions.
Is it?
Hard-hitting questions.
Had to be. You're only giving them to me. How often do you work out?
You like this question?
How often do you work out?
You ask me this a lot.
Yeah, I know. How often?
Did that picture do something to you?
What? But I'm not going to ask you any questions because you're making them weird.
No, I'm saying, did that picture?
Yes, I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, I'm in love with him.
But it did something to you though.
It was viral.
Did it change how you felt towards me though? Because you're like, oh, like, are your abs real?
Why are you acting like that's not a question everyone has?
But like yours, you're asking it more like, oh, like, are your
When
abs
did
real?
I ever...
I'm not gonna lie, if I'm the boyfriend, I know this is her job and blah blah blah, but I'll be pissed. Because towards the end, Drake was flirting. Like, Drake was flirting. Like, let's be real. Towards the end, Drake was flirting.
But we can play it back. When did I give it that? You wanted to give that.
Yeah.
That's not what it's giving.
What am I giving?
People think you got a procedure done.
Really?
You
A
know?
procedure?
Yeah, an ab one.
Really?
Yeah, did you do that?
No.
Is that a thing?
I'm sure it is.
Why do you know that?
Because people do it all the time.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
But you've never done that?
No.
Okay.
People also say that I got a BBL, right? They call me BBL Drizzy. So
Oh, that's true. Did
I
you?
don't know if my like wagon looked crazy when I walked in here, but
I think the BBO Drizzy is more to do with that Kendrick line, no? I don't think people say BBO Drizzy because they think he's got a big bum. I think BBO Drizzy comes because of that Kendrick line where he's like, if Drake was in a room with two bad bitches, he'd be thinking he's one of the baddest, you know? I think it comes on that. I think it's like a diss on that. And it also might come from the back of that song with fucking, what's his name? With 21 Savage, right? Like 21, what you do something for, you know how people interpreted 21, do something for me, they interpret it in a sassy way. So I think it comes from that. I don't think it comes from the physical or the literal, representation of him having a big bum. I think it's more like a diss, piggybacking off what Kendrick said.
But did it?
You got a BBL and you got your abs sculpted?
Did you? Do I have a fatty?
I didn't look at your body when you walked in here.
Do you want me to 360?
I don't.
So then, like, if it didn't stand out to you,
No, me personally, I've never
I
looked
think
at you
that
and
pic
thought
just like I think it was just like I came from the gym. I was sweaty in that pic. Maybe
Just a good day.
I went on Facetune and like put like details up, and you can like make it.
Don't even admit to that much.
Oh,
then
sorry.
you
Just being
face-tuned
honest.
it.
Yeah, I was like maybe I like heightened the like saturation or something on it.
Okay.
I think I like hit it too hard.
He's my guy. You guys know how much I love Drake. But finding out Drake has fucking Facetune downloaded on his phone. And he uses it sometimes is fucking depressing. It's so sad. Honestly, I love the guy, but You got Facetune on your phone, bruh. And then you Facetune your abs. Like, what? Wagwan, yes, sir. On this big internet. Big up Remain Relevant. Wagwan, yes, sir. On this big internet. Why for that? Why does this guy have fucking Facetune on his phone? I don't understand. So, I don't believe him, by the way. I don't believe him. That picture was too sus. If you've worked out, you'll know how hard it is to get your abs. Abs are probably the last thing. Maybe if you're genetically blessed, you're lucky. But for most people, abs are the last thing to show. The last thing to show. They take so long to get. Usually to have defined abs, you have to really dial in your fucking diet. Maybe sometimes, do a little bit of a cut as well, water fast and shit, to really get a definition going. But all in all, it does take a while for it to show. But usually, if you have popping abs, your chest is looking another way. Your arms are looking another way. Your neck is looking another way. Your delts look another way. And for me, Drake's arms, delts, shoulders, chest, waist even, they don't match how defined these abs are. Unless he's just got weird genetics where, for whatever reason, the fat around his stomach just kind of, sticks to his abs and makes them more defined. Or maybe it's to do with him having lipo. That could be the thing. Maybe he had lipo back in the day. So maybe if you have lipo back in the day and you take all that fat, there's less fat to cover the abs. I don't know, but it just didn't match. The abs definition and his arms and his back and whatever else, it just didn't match what his abs had. So I just don't think it's true. I think he did probably get some etching done, some sculpting, which is not abs. It's not an actual implant. If I'm not mistaken, sculpting is like when they essentially do what I mentioned, where they kind of do the lipo around the abs to make them stick out some more. But this explanation, in my opinion, is pure bullshit. I love Drake. He's my guy. You know it. But this explanation is pure bullshit. I think he did get his abs etched and whatever. I think it looks horrible personally. I think someone like a Drake with his level of wealth, with his resources, there's no excuse why he can't just hire a trainer and actually get abs done properly. I think he'd look amazing if he actually did decide to get super ripped and get really fit. Obviously, it's going to take time and it's difficult to do. You have to have the willpower, the discipline. But if he has all the money that he has, like, just get someone to, get fucking David Goggins live in your house and wake you up fucking 5 a.m. every morning to go for runs and to eat in a certain way. I think he'd be fine. So I would prefer it if he just, figures that shit out and doesn't do the fucking dumbass surgery. Please fucking God, no more surgeries.